Okay, we're live.
Awesome.
Cool.
So this is on chapters 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Right. And then those little clips or the website things.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to start with those?
Yeah, might as
'Cause
well.
I feel like they were kind of fun and cute and quick.
Do you guys want to start with the Reading Rockets writing sample?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see.
So, how did the red marks provide insight? Were they helpful? Were the suggestions on where to go next helpful? And did you find the measurement tool helpful?
The measurement tool meaning passage that the student wrote, right? That was the tool, right?
That's a good question. Or just like the tool itself, as in the red marks? Is that
red marks, like the feedback?
I thought it meant like the assessing of their writing and then as like in general.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I thought I didn't like all the red marks that they put. First I read it and I was like, I don't know what to say about this. But then I read all the red marks and I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not used to grading stuff like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I took I spent more time on the kindergarten ones because a lot of the stuff that we're teaching is at a kindergarten first grade level. And a lot of it focused on pictures and what the pictures told the story. And so the marks kind of help to explain from people who know the students, this is what this is. And then when I look at it, I'm like, that's not what I saw. But seeing all those marks, it kind of was like, okay, now I see where they were going. Now I see why they did that. So even though it wasn't writing, it's that pre-writing. So I thought that was helpful.
Yeah.
I chose the third grade level because a lot of my students are at a third grade level and I have to help them a lot with writing papers, and I just kind of wanted to see the comparison. So it's kind of unfortunate, but a lot of my students, their writing does look like this, a lot of misspellings. So for mine, I thought it was really cool. It says a graphic organizer such as a paragraph hamburger may help them, and that's exactly what we use. So it's kind of cool to see it's already being used when they're younger, to help them get used to it, I guess.
And for you, that's where they are. And then the strategies for where to go next is also what you're doing. So it's kind of like, okay, well, it says where to go, and I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that too.
Okay. Should we go to the next? Does anyone have anything else about the red marks and the writing samples?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay. So the written expression probe generator.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This just brought me back to writing. Oh, I hated writing tests.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny because the girl I work with is in 4th grade, and her 4th graders do writing prompts every Wednesday, and she's incredibly cognitively there, and so her stories are just so out there. And one of them was there was a young deer by the pond taking a drink of water, and she wrote about how it was eating berries and off of a salami tree. And I was like, what on earth does that mean? And so it just seeing them and how creative they can be. Just I thought it was really funny and really cool because I do see it, we use these types of prompts every single week.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, I'm driving, so I might just listen for a little bit, but
Yeah, concentrate on the road. But like even for our kids now, so we're in the basement and there's 4 study skills special ed teachers. So one of them is in charge of data collection, and so she's having them do these like 3-minute prompts of writing, and our kids just dread it. They're like, "Please don't call my name. Please don't call my name." But I'm like, this is how we help you guys. So yeah, it still continues.
Yeah. I mean, we have some kids that when they're going out to do the time, some kids enjoy it more than others. But it's also like I find it cool with like the CBM and everything, because it is used a lot with the gen ed students as well as special ed students, in kind of like similar formats. Like you might be looking for different things depending on their level and the prompts. But like this type of test can be used for such a broad range of ages and like types of students. So I thought that was really cool.
Did you actually reflected their writing skills when they tried it?
Are you talking to me?
Anyone?
Well, yeah.
He told us to do it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was hard because you concentrate more on the time. I mean, you just write down random thoughts that don't make sense, but I'm more focused on the
Yeah.
Like I thought mine was pretty good, but I kept second guessing myself on some words I was spelling because we depend on computers to say, "Oh, you spelled this wrong," and I kept second guessing myself. Then I got focused on that, and then
I just had like no organization. Like it was just like
That's
a
how
lot
I
of like
write.
I did the zoo one and like a zookeeper, and I just started like going off about like different animals. Like that's what happened.
it's kind of a lot of pressure. You know, you only have 4 minutes. Here you go.
It's like, what can I get done in that time?
Yep.
That sounds somewhat okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was so organized.
I kind of did it in the mindset of like a 4th grader though. Because that's just like what I think of most of my things now is like, how would a 4th grader do it? Like, how would any of my kids do it? So like when I was doing it, that's kind of like, where would this go next? Okay. And like the alligator jumped up to get the banana. And like, why? I don't know.
Wow, you have an imagination.
After the salami tree, it kind of just, I'm around it all the time.
That's awesome.
All right.
And
All right. So is that all of them for those 2?
One more question. It says, how do you think writing CBM can be used to help inform instruction and measure the effects of intervention? I think you can learn a lot from a kid's writing sample.
How much they understand about anything.
And if there's like a specific skill within writing that they're struggling with, like if they're getting their letters backwards, if they're
Syntax.
missing words, putting words in different orders, or like spelling, like we were reading about spelling versus like how you think how it sounds versus how it's actually spelled.
Okay, this is a side note. When you guys were in like kindergarten and 1st grade, do you guys do kid spelling? Or did your teacher make you spell it how it actually is spelled?
that's a good question.
Because I always remember
we tend to
kids spelling.
just for the writing, you know, they'll just write how it is that they're going to write, you know, and if it's something that we want to coach them on to go back and fix or whatever, then we'll do that. But, really just, getting period is usually much, much more of a goal.
We would go back with the
You know,
dictionary.
Yeah.
After?
Even when, like in second grade, I want to say.
Like you would try.
Write it down.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then go back.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you say like phonetic spelling and then you go back and check it?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or however it is
Okay.
that they do spell.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, the first, like I said, the first goal is just really getting the content. Is getting them to write or write in complete sentences or just being willing to explore a topic or whatever. It's
Being creative.
usually
Mm-hmm.
the victory. And if we can do that, then we're a little bit less concerned than how they spell there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if they remember their silent E's or whatever.
And then go back and work on that skill later once they're more confident being
Mm-hmm.
able
Right.
to write. I just remember having like the worst handwriting in the entire world until I was in like the 5th grade. It was like illegible.
Mhm.
When you conduct a CBM, if your student's handwriting is so bad, are they allowed to type it? Do you guys know?
We don't. But then I don't know how many writing CBMs we actually use. It's something that I've done. I'm not sure how we handle that in general,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I would think
that's
that
been something I've seen.
only if it's an accommodation,
Right.
Right, exactly.
then they can type it. But otherwise.
And that is one of my students' accommodations because his handwriting is so illegible. So
Yeah,
I was
like
just
my
wondering.
student, her accommodation is to type, so she could probably type it. But I
Okay.
think if it's not, then
Right.
no, they have to.
That makes sense.
Okay, so on to the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think these chapters were a little short and sweet.
Mm-hmm. So
It wasn't really too much.
And it like went along really well with like all the information from the websites and stuff. So it was just like
You're
it
right.
was a lot easier to read, I felt.
Yeah.
And it just seemed familiar. Like after we had to do the reading fluency assignment
Right.
and like go and do that, like going back and reading this, it was like, oh yeah, a lot of this seemed to be kind of familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas,
How do you guys feel about having them write 3 minutes for 3 different times, though? I mean, you were talking about your kids not liking it in the first place. When you're asking
Yeah.
them, like, by the time you're writing the third one, who knows what you're going to get?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be different if you had the kids writing for 9 minutes and doing one prompt? You think you'd get like a more, it's kind of similar, but kind of not. I don't know.
That's a good question because I think I can't remember exactly which chapter it was, but kind of making the demands of writing work with what CBM is and how that works. But at the same time, if you're looking at what, say, like a typical kindergartner can write in 3 minutes versus what, like a typical 5th grade or 6th grade, whatever, can write in that same amount of time. It's going to be accurate. Obviously, if they do spend more time on it, at any age, you're going to get better. But just still, whatever you're going to get in that time span should improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not be reflective of their writing in terms of like say what they would turn in for like a homework assignment or an essay or whatever, particularly for the higher grades. But at the same time, you're still going to see that same measure of improvement.
Right. I was reading that you can let your student write for more than 3 minutes, but only to assess that first 3 minutes to see if they're on
right
grade level.
Right.
Just to give them that, I don't know, sense of structure.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah. I think there's also like another part of it with and tying with that and dealing with writing in the context of CBM is the subjectivity of it. Just because it's if they get like so many math problems right in a given time frame, it's that's something that's a little bit more concrete. But what the quality of writing is a little bit more subjective to measure.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I thought it was interesting, like the comparison between words spelled correctly and correct letter sequences. Just how they scored it and how it says the correct letter sequence gives the teacher, student, and a parent versus just getting the answer correct.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting too.
What page is that on?
93.
It said that it got easier to score as you gave them, but just at the start of reading that, it didn't sound like anything I would want to sit and score.
Yeah.
Yeah, it said it would take 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much longer, especially as you get used to doing it. But yeah, I mean, if a student, if you have a word that's several 5-6 letters long, and the student gets 4 or 5 of those correct, that's mostly right, and it doesn't. You're kind of losing that information if you count the whole word wrong just because of one letter or just switching 2 letters or whatever.
Let's see.
And I felt like with these 2 chapters, I like really resonated with a lot of the frequently asked questions in the back. Because after kind of going through and reading how they're scoring it and how they're giving it and like the prompts and everything, it's kind of like those still like lingering questions. It just went through and asked all those things that I was still wondering afterwards. And so like I just like went through and I know that I put like little sticky notes and I put a whole bunch on a bunch of the questions. I was like, oh, this is relevant. This is relevant. Like this I like. This I like.
What else? Let's see. And I liked how they used like actual examples of children's writing. Like, so, because like I don't really get to experience that in the high school setting. So I thought that was really cool to see an actual version of that.
I like
and how
to read
how they would score it.
Yeah. I like to
Do
read the
any of you
IEP
give
rules that they give
PMs?
examples for.
That's a good point. Like, what are they focusing on and what are their own particular writing goals for the samples? That's interesting.
I don't think I've ever given writing CBM. Have any of you, or a spelling one?
No.
No.
We just focus on math and reading. So
We're like doing typing because
Although it would make sense.
with my
Yeah.
girls' accommodations.
Mhm.
And we're doing like the prompts, so her teacher, but they're not timed.
okay.
So like she's getting the prompts every week, and I guess it's like preparing them to do the writing CBM.
Okay.
So it's getting them familiar with the process, but in a much more comfortable and relaxed setting. So they get, because some of these prompts looked very familiar. So they're getting, fourth grade standardized prompts, but they're getting a lot of them. And so then that way, I guess, and that's kind of just my interpretation of it, is that
Right.
like later on they will be doing the writing CBM, but they'll be so used to the format of getting this prompt writing afterwards, that it'll help. So I think that's what the teacher is preparing them to do. And the students have fun with it. Like they share and they can be, kind of silly, use their imaginations.
Yeah, I like that.
So, but I don't know. I think, and I don't know if they're computerized tests, because I know they do the iReady,
Mm.
but I don't know if that's on. I don't really know how that like system works. So I don't know if they're like sitting down and doing the writing sample, or if they're typing, or what.
Right.
Yeah, none of my kids have writing or spelling goals. One of my students has a goal to be able to type on the computer, but that's like he's been just like copying. So eventually, I think that will turn into more of a writing goal.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
One
more
of
of a functional device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually have two students with writing goals, but um, it hasn't really been um, a CBM kind of thing. Now that I think about it, I know one of them is not, because he's does part time in our ERR room, and our ERR teacher doesn't use CBM, so I know that they're doing a different thing, and I don't think not sure for the resource room teacher what she's using for that, but they do have some writing they do have some writing goals that we help them with, but that's just been they've just had their own sort of journaling that they do towards that, and it hasn't really been in like a structured CBM sort of way.
And then is there a rubric or something that you compare it to each?
No, it's more just getting them to actually write, and just like just the level of thought that's in the sentences, details, number of
Mhm.
sentences, sequencing, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess one of the things that the questions from the study guide, I like kind of went through it. It seemed like a lot of the chapters were a lot of like how to score it and how to give it. Um, so there like wasn't too much that was still like up in the air.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I
just
think
like it's importance for teachers to know, like to assess spelling and to assess the writing, and like why that's important for teachers to do.
yeah, and I think it was also interesting, like going back to what has been going on, from the beginning, that this is um, an alternative to other assessments and not an addition of other assessments, and that these kinds of CBMs could replace things like spelling tests and those kinds of things, and that kind of piqued my interest. I'm not sure how soon school or whatever would be willing to consider that, but I mean it's an interesting thought. It makes sense, to that one way or another what all that is going towards is towards writing, and so if they can produce better writing samples, if the CBMs are accurate,
Mhm.
then that would be go.
Mm-hmm.
I just always wonder, like with my students, if they're still at, a third grade reading level and writing level. We just keep, passing them on. Like we can try and help them improve as much as we can and collect data to see what we can do to improve our instruction. But sometimes I just feel like I can't do a whole lot because they're like already in high school and this is where they're at. So that's kind of how I
feel like, especially with writing.
And I do, like I can give them these graphic organizers and I can help them, but a lot of my students don't like to read, so they can't improve their vocabulary. So sometimes I feel like I'm at a loss with some of my students with that.
I see that too with my high school kids. The English teachers give them an assignment and they do the bare minimum, if even that.
Right.
Exactly. Like we just had our kids had to read a book and 3 of them only read like 2 pages because they refused to do it because it's so difficult for them. Even though we
Would
give
they
them an
listen to it?
audiobook, we give them options, they just like refuse to do it. Hard.
Yeah, and they all piggyback on each other. If they don't like reading, they're not going to like, a lot of times they're not going to like writing. They're not going to like reading their own writing.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it can be hard, like with some writing when students, because I know my girl, we go to a writing resource group 4 days a week with 3 other boys. And there's a lot of behaviors and a lot of them all have writing goals. And so we do like yesterday it was, what's your favorite Olympic sport? What could you, imagine that you're going to the Olympics and you get to do a sport, write the name of the sport and then write like, think of some cool tricks. And, we write a lot of the stuff on the board. And so, okay, so think of yourself, if you're snowboarding and you're on the half pipe, like, what do you want to do? So we're like trying to make it fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, like, especially yesterday, we had 2 of the boys that just slid under the table and did not do anything. And then the girl who I work with is in a wheelchair and she did all of her work, but that's because I'm sitting next to her because she dictates. And the resource teacher, was like, oh, she did so great. She did all of her work. And I was like, I would be willing to bet you that if she was doing this on her own, she'd be right under the table with all those boys.
Yeah.
But I am making her sit here.
Have them
And
write
that's why
about what's
it's
going
done.
on under there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so it's like that domino, like especially in groups, like sometimes doing it one-on-one, they don't want to do, but then doing it in groups, they'll piggyback off of each other. And just like as soon as one student's like, I'm not doing it, and we made it super personalized and very specific, helping with the spelling, helping with the writing, and you write 2 sentences, we'll write 2 sentences, trying to split it up. But even then it was just like, no way. So we're like, all right, we'll try again on Monday. Yeah. And then after no school tomorrow, because like we have off, and so all the kids are just kind of like, we're done.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, next week's going to be hard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was telling them, Lisa, before you got here that we have school that Monday.
You do.
Uh-huh.
Just Monday.
There's a lot of work that's going to get done that day.
Oh my gosh, it's just going to be drill sergeant all day.
Wow.
We can do the writing testing. Woohoo.
There you go.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm
Good luck with that.
All we're doing already.
You get your best work.
Oh my gosh, I know. Okay. Chloe, how are we on time?
So right now it's 5:47 and I think it doesn't tell me on here.
Yeah, we started at 5:17, so we're like right at 30 minutes.
Right at 30, yeah.
More or less, yeah.
You think it would say on the Google Hangout, but it doesn't. So
Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I don't know.
I think we covered most of it. I think.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
All right.
Well,
Cool,
then
guys.
I'll submit this and we'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You?
Right.
Thanks, Chloe.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Mm.
Bye.